Welcome back to Happy Health Hour. And with me this week are Dr. P, Dr. M, and Nurse Lynda. Welcome, everybody.
Hi.
Are we ready to talk about the mental health crisis?
No.
No. Okay.
I am.
Okay, Dr. P is ready. That's all we needed. Dr. P, why then? Let's start with you. If you're ready, if you want to talk about it, why has the demand for mental health care just exploded? What's going on?
Well, as my favorite philosopher, Yogi Berra, has said, 90% of this is 80% mental. The rest half is physical. So if we can remember that, then we will know that most of our problems are not physical, they are mental. And they always have been. In fact, the more we look deeper at our problems, they've always been mental. And if we can, what we are seeing now is a weakness in the ability to handle change. That's one. The second is change as never before, stress as never before. Things are moving very fast, and really disruptive movements are happening, whether good or bad, and some are good and some are bad. So the consciousness that receives does not have the walls that it had anymore, and those walls have been removed, and the consciousness is not ready to see these changes at the same time. And these are not separate movements, because these are part of the same holistic change that we are seeing in the universe that we are in. At the same time, we are seeing seismic shifts in the way the world is constituted and the way we respond to the world. So that's why mental problems are increasing. And maybe the third thing is we are diagnosing them early. And number four is there's always more money to be made from mental problems, and that's very helpful to the medical profession.
Okay, interesting. Nurse Lynda, do you agree with Dr. P when he says that um, the problems are increasing, but in reality they've always been there, or is it that we're just seeing more problems?
In a way, I agree, but if you just look, I mean, I'm a child of the 60s. I was born in the 50s, in the age of innocence, before we had cell phones and the internet and, and instant information. So in those days, and in the days prior to myself, people were more insular. Their problems were therefore more insular. They weren't affected by what was happening out here because they didn't know what was happening out here. They were only concerned with the core, the family, maybe the neighborhood, maybe the little town or whatever. We don't have that. We don't have that ability anymore. We are instantly aware of everything that's happening all over the globe. And parenting styles have changed. Where I raised my children, it's not the same way. Well, they are sort of raising theirs the way I raised mine, but every generation, talks about the one before it and whatever. I just think it's multi-level. There's multiple levels that are affecting us, and not the least of which is the amount of information we have and the amount of things that we have that are aggressive and not necessarily good news. And so we are individually dealing with more than we have ever dealt with before. And I don't believe we have the tools to deal with it.
Okay, we'll come on to the tools in just a second. But Dr. M, what do you think? Is it just that we're diagnosing the things that were already always there, but certainly, is there an increase of mental health problems?
as far as you're suggesting that things may have always been there, problems, trials, tribulations, conflicts have always been in our lives. That's for sure. As far as all of this recognition, and as was pointed out, there's just it's a kind of an information avalanche. Every day you're hit with millions of bytes of information that we've never had before. So there indeed is much more that's been layered on our psyche, our energy systems. We are energy. We're all energy. And we're not solid beings. And we're constantly being hit with all these different waves and frequencies and all that stuff. So there's a whole lot more of these which have developed, evolved, whatever you want to call it, we've now got a monster that, we're trying to control this monster which has a zillion arms and all that. So yes, we have a lot more to deal with. So when the mind is overloaded in all of this, as opposed to let's go back to Plato, Aristotle, all those lovely guys who had nothing else to do but think, just think, and blue skies and nice trees and nothing outside of just nature. It was like they were seeking now, and that really made the brain grow, and it had us develop even more, more capacity for such and such and so on with our imagination, creativity. But now it's like all of that is has been created, and all the creativity and all that has happened, and now it's just coming back at us in again, avalanche form. We're just getting hit with it, and we don't even have time or room to think about something new.
Yeah.
So it's just over and over the top, over and above. I think we've really been, drowning, literally drowning, like we were talking about in our toxin talk. We're drowning in so much frequency, so much that we need to clean up. We need to start fresh. We need to do something to get all this out. And it starts with us, as Lynda said. It starts with you, and really using your inner powers to try to, move this away. But that's part of it. That's not for I mean, if everyone would do that, maybe the whole world would change. But yeah,
So
it's a combo.
to sum up, I think there's a difficult subject to quantify in a short period of time that we've got. But to sum up, all three of you say there is a significant element of increased. It's not just diagnosis is better. It's just that there is an increase. And what the three of you putting down to is just that modern humans just have much more to deal with than humans even of 100 years ago. Would I be summing it up that way? Dr. P, would I be right?
Yes, and they don't have the coping mechanisms for this new world. We are used to the old world, going on a bullock cart, and slowly things are moving. We are not ready for the speed. Just the fact that, we traveled from India to the US, the brain starts getting fried. It doesn't handle the shift, and that catches up over time, and then the body takes a while to catch up. The other thing we are seeing is a difference, the separation between the physiologic and the psychological is blurring. The metabolism of the cells has effects on how you see and how you cognize, how you assimilate information. But also, let's going back to this whole concept of mental health. Until humanity discovers a higher principle to deal with this higher chaos, it will consistently find itself collapsing in the face of this onslaught. And what an onslaught. Look, whether it's information, whether it's the chemical shifts that we just talked about, pollution and toxins, whether it's ecology, whether it's our social relationships, whether it's our incapability of feeling for each other and sensing each other's issues and our community, all that is a big shift. And the old props are gone, right? The uh, crutches we had are gone, and now we are falling. So unless we discover something truer, something that is more at our core, we will continue floundering with this. And we have to find a deeper principle of wellness. The moment you say mental health, we have to discover mental health. Otherwise, we'll have mental disorders. And we have to find mental health. We have to master our mind, our psychology, and we have to discover how to be at a point where we are not moved by greed and ambition. We are constantly at war with each other. Each human being is at war with the world and with every other human being. That is how we are constituted with our ego. And as long as we are using ego to fight the challenges of the world, we will find that it will constantly fail. We'll have to find better principles to be able to deal with the challenges towards the family that we call, or that our ancients called, the earth. And until that happens, we will have problems.
Okay. I'm getting a much clearer picture from the three of you about the issues at hand, and it feels, I've got to say to the three of you, it feels insurmountable. Lynda, what have you noticed in the work you do over the last 50 years? What have you noticed in terms of the scale of the problem, in terms of medical practitioners, providers, as you call them in the States, supporting humans in good mental health?
It's very, very difficult. It's difficult to find practitioners that can connect with people. Remember, they're people too. So they're dealing with the same things we're dealing with. And I think the issue is that each individual patient, has their own menu of what they're dealing with. And if they're going to seek out someone to help them work through these things, they have to find the person or persons who connect with them that can help them do that. And not everybody can connect with everybody. I mean, we're all different. And providers are people too, with their own menu of stuff. So, in my experience, there are not enough skilled, empathetic practitioners of this science to help the size, the sheer enormity of the problem. What I believe has to happen is we have to come up with a different care model, because what we have now is simply not working. It's overwhelmed. It's overwhelmed and it's overwhelming, and it's actually adding to the problem, because when you can't get care, you get more and more frustrated and more aggravated. If you can't find someone that you connect with, that compounds the problem. You can't get your care in the emergency room. That just isn't going to work. They're there for emergencies. The present model needs to be redone completely. It needs to be completely reimagined.
Dr. M, I want to come to you now, and the segue to you from Lynda here is very easy. What Lynda just said, it needs to be reimagined. Okay, can you describe? Can you reimagine for us what that care model would look like? But paying attention to costs. What would a reimagined system look like?
I can think of very very important words here right now that must be part of this, and
Okay.
they are C words. We need to see that we need the connection, we need the comforting, we need the caring, we need the calm, and we need to be able to have the utmost compassion. And there are those of us who, again, I'll include myself because and these two wonderful people, my colleagues, um, we have the compassion, we have this seed, we see it, we got it. It's a matter of really getting it out to our colleagues, our teams, to the best of our ability. We can, as was said before, we can control our own little world, and if we can share that with others, then they can take it, and just take these bits and pieces and do it in their world. So if we don't really see what's needed, and then it's not going to be possible. So we've got to see really deeply the importance of the connectivity, bringing people together. When I bring people together here at the center or in my office, whatever, they feel love, they feel the care, their mental, the whole mental, emotional, psyche, that whole organ of existence, it works better. We can all, see the improvements when there are those caring, compassionate folks around. You just need a couple of people and they can make all the difference. It's so important. We need to get the message out every which way, show each other this kindness, and not back down from it, and not, not let people down. And I see it. I see it when I'm taking care of folks who come to me for their mental health, which translates to their physical health, because it all translates to disease. Once you're not working right, and mentally, emotionally, psychically, your whole body falls apart. So once I get that, and I see it, I saw it today. I saw someone literally transforming himself. He saw how he was improving as we were talking, and that really was nice. And as we parted, he knew what he had to do, and it was very fulfilling. I think it was a fulfilling moment. You can see what happens. Again, see what happens. Remember that.
Okay, I might come back to you on that in a moment. Go ahead, Linda. You wanted to say something, and then I'm gonna
Yeah, I wanted to build on what Dr. M was saying. Um, it's called an integrated care model, where you bring mental health into your primary care practice. So the patient who already has the trust and the relationship with the PCP in that place where they go to for all their care, if you could integrate the mental health aspect into that seems to be the model, the way it looks like it's starting to move in that direction, and there's some very positive results. Dr. M just shared one with you. There seems to be some very positive results that way. I was seeing weight loss patients, and the funny thing is that they would get to their goal, or they were doing fine and they didn't need to be seen anymore, but they kept coming and they didn't want to be discharged, because we talked about all kinds of things. It wasn't just about weight loss and nutrition. This one was grieving because he lost every friend. They've all died, or the family, or whatever. When you're seeing a patient, you're seeing the whole patient. And that integrated model, I believe, is where we have to go.
Dr. P. There will be people out there. Tough question for you, philosophical sort of question for you. There will be people who'll be listening to this, and they will say, this is being overstated. People just don't know how to stand up and cope with things anymore. And I don't want you to, the question is not, what do you say to them? The question is, where can you see this leading? Where can you see the crisis, or is there a crisis? But where can you see the crisis leading if we don't try to reimagine and imagine a care system? Where will this end up in your
So,
society in the United States?
so when people say it is overstated, or we just don't have the coping mechanisms, they're partly correct. We don't have the coping mechanisms. But I can tell you today, sharing with you the data, 30% of the visits to the emergency rooms are due to mental issues.
Okay.
50% of the physical issues are caused by mental issues. And these are studies. So I think we have created compartments of the mental health and physical health. And as Linda pointed out, bringing together of these two is important. Physiology affects psychology, psychology affects physiology. And one may say to some extent that every disease that we have, every medical issue, every social issue, cultural issue is actually a mental issue, it's a deep psychological issue. And when Dr. Scanziano, Dr. M said the C's, I was thinking of chaos, confusion, confounding, commotion. And then I said, no, she's talking about something else. So we have to understand that chaos and cosmos, they are together right from the beginning of our understanding about human life. In fact, this is an ancient preoccupation of humanity and still here. So in that way, the mental issues, psychological issues have always been there. How to approach it is what we have lost.
Yes.
That is the bigger issue. Our children are finding it very difficult to have an emotional response to these concerns because they've not been brought up in an environment where they are even allowed to have an emotional expression. Look at how much allowed in the sense the smartphones, the smart world, the tech world. Where is the human engagement? There's neither human engagement, nor is there an engagement with one's environment, nor is there an engagement with oneself. There is an overload which takes away everything. There is no free thought. There's no free expression. There's not even a free cognition. It has been taken over. And if you are worried about AI taking over the human mind, bigger concern is this information overload taking over our brains. And how much, what do you call this? What is the word that is used now for the brain rot? Is that the word? And that's a real thing. So mental health issues are a real thing, I believe. And we need to be awake to that. If we do not address these issues, we will find that our society will become more fractured as it already is. All we have to do is go on television shows and see how people behave in the reality shows, and you'll know there are major issues with humanity. You have to look at our present international leadership, and you will know that there are issues with humanity. If humanity were really healthy, you think our leaders will be communicating the way they are? You think our different countries would be dealing with each other the way they are and bombing each other out of existence? Are these not? Is there no problem with that? Are we okay with all that? And if you think that's okay, then you have a mental issue.
Hey, stop looking at me. I haven't said. I'm just asking the questions, Dr.
No, this is a question we have to ask ourselves. Where is the sensitivity, the care, the concern? I'm talking about simple things about a human life and how we take care of each other and of ourselves. Of ourselves, we are not even able to take care of ourselves. So, what health are we talking about?
Thank you, Dr. P. Dr. M, last word to you. It's a similar question, almost the same question, but but the slant is, what are the positive things you can see going on to combat this crisis?
I see a lot of communication happening, at least in my little arena here. People are communicating. We're advocating for people to come together. We at our center, at least, we have meditation, we have dance movement classes, we have book club support group. We have other exercises and things. We have wonderful things we offer here. Salt rooms, people breathe it in. Um, I give talks on mental health and physical health, the whole thing, different health topics, and we get together. I think the getting together is really, really important. None of this, everything remote. I mean, obviously, we have to do some things remote, and we have that benefit, but when we really want to make things happen, it needs to be person with person, people together in the same space to really see things happen, get things going. I've been, fortunate enough to have some really wonderful people that I work with. We're all willing. They're willing to make a difference. They want to see people smile and have comfort and know that they have a place to go and they can rely on one another and so on and so forth. They can ask questions, they can feel free to speak and have open discourse. We promote and nurture this. This is what I think is really, really healthy. And and connecting with everyone in the community, the community leaders. We reach out to them to have them get on board with us. So if we keep making these connections, in-person connections are very important. Putting the cell phones down, putting all that technology out of the way, and let's talk. Let's talk human to human. Let's put the technology aside for now. Use it as a tool only really when necessary. And boy, oh boy, it's not necessary on a constant basis. It really isn't. Which, as Dr. P said, the children are suffering. And we've got to teach them. We've got to get it out of their hands once and for all. And they're doing that right now. Things like that are happening. There are these cell phone free weeks that people are doing. So it's happening. The word's getting out and the kids are seeing that they're interacting and they're able to function. So it's happening. It'll take time like everything else, but there is optimism here. We're working at it. We're chipping away at it.
Wonderful. And on that positive note, we're going to return to this topic again. But on that positive note, let me finish by just saying this, that these topics that we're covering, they're not necessarily very positive. We try to add something positive to the discussion, but we are handling big problem health debates. So, what we don't want to do, we don't want to paint a rosy picture when the rosy picture doesn't exist. We want to be truthful at the same time as adding a little bit of positivity. So with that, unless Dr. P. Lynda, you have any final words for this week?
We have to recognize things for what they are. If you start seeing things as they are, then with that realization itself comes a new action and the new ability to do things. And I think we have to see things. So recognizing a problem as a problem is itself a very positive thing. First step.
Wonderful. Nurse Lynda, final word before we say goodbye to everybody for this week.
Aware. That's the word. Be aware. Be awake. Be alert. And communicate. Eye contact. Let the person across from you know that you care, that you're listening to what they say. Hearing is different than listening. Listen.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lynda. Thank you, Dr. M. Thank you, Dr. P. We will be seeing you very soon. Until then, it's goodbye from Happy Health Hour.
Thank you. Bye-bye.